Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you happen to be joining us today. My name is Sarah, and we are so excited you are here to learn all about callings and meetings in Microsoft Teams. Before we get started, I do want to remind us that today's training will be recorded, which means lucky for you, available to rewatch on demand. So we are in a live event environment, which means there are a couple of meeting controls available to you. If you navigate to the bottom left corner of your screen, you will see a play or pause button. Should you need to step away, perhaps grab a drink of water, grab a snack, then select that pause button, and whenever you're ready to join us, you can select that play button. Next door, you can locate our volume icon. Please ensure it's at a comfortable place so that you can hear our presentation today. Navigating to the far right, we can locate the closed captions. If you would like to follow along using this wonderful accessibility feature, feel free to do so. And speaking of captions, if we navigate to the gear icon, this is where you can adjust your settings for your closed captions today. In addition, if you're noticing that your screen is a bit fuzzy or blurry, navigating to that gear icon can help you remediate this issue by adjusting the video's resolution. And finally, our diagonal arrow going in either direction will allow you to view today's contents in full screen mode, which is its most optimal state. Just note that this may take away the Q&A pane located to the far right side of your screen. But no worries there, because if we navigate to the top right, we'll find our overlapping question mark balloon icon, which will allow you to show or hide your questions. So speaking of questions, we highly encourage you to ask any that you may have today, as we have moderators who will be actively moderating our chat. And if you do have any comments, please let me know, as we want to ensure today's session is valuable. In addition, if you would like any redemonstrations for me to review any items, please let us know by engaging in that Q&A pane and sending away using that paper plane icon. So again, we highly encourage you to use that Q&A function, as it will be your only means of communication, seeing that both your microphone is automatically muted and your camera will not be in use. So the faces behind the voices, we have myself, Sarah, along with my wonderful colleagues, Jake and Yami. And we are all Microsoft trainers located in the New York City hub location. So Jake and Yami will help us moderate the chat. In addition, they will be collaborating alongside with me during my demonstration. So a big shout out to both Jake and Yami for their support today. Now, Microsoft Teams offers ultimate flexibility for meeting and calling. You're able to host meetings from anywhere, anytime, and with anyone. So in today's session, we will focus on learning the mechanics of using Teams meetings, specifically the full meeting lifecycle. What we can take advantage of before the meeting begins, so the pre-meeting stage, during the meeting, and the post-meeting stage. And then conclude our demonstration with the use of calling features. We'll dive into how we can connect one-on-one and lead a team training, or host an interactive webinar for up to 1,000 attendees. You'll learn how to engage your audience, review notes, see live reactions, and just feel like you're in the room together. We'll end today's demonstration with exploring our calling interface and see how you can call a Teams member and explore managing contacts right in your calls environment. So this is all better demonstrated live. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of our session today. Please bear with me as I stop sharing our PowerPoint and now bring us to our lovely Microsoft Teams interface. You should be able to see our Teams interface in front of you. If you do not at this time or throughout our session today, please let us know and my moderators can come off mute and let me know as well. So let's quickly recap our lay of the land here in Teams. So as you know, we have Teams broken up into 3 sections. First, we have our top horizontal menu bar, which includes, starting from the far right, we have our profile location. And you'll note that upon selecting, I am using a demonstration account today by the name of Adele Vance. And she works for a fictional company called Contoso. Furthermore, I'm working inside a virtual machine today, so if we happen to notice any hiccups or lagging, we can go ahead and blame it on my virtual machine there. Located next door, we can find our three-dot ellipsis, which always gives us more options, not just in Teams, but for any M365 application that you may come across. So I like to personally think of these three dots as my hidden treasure within my treasure chest of Teams. So let's explore one of these features, like zooming in, just so that we can see our contents. And in the top middle, we have our intelligent search bar. And in the top left corner, we can locate our navigation arrows, allowing us to browse just like we would in a web browser. Now, quick note, when you do hover over the left arrow, you'll note that you can quickly pivot to a recently visited page. Now, I do also want to mention that I'm using the desktop version of Teams today. So if you are using the web browser or web version, you will note that instead of the left and right navigation arrows, it will be replaced by a 9-dot app launcher, also known as our waffle icon instead. Some of the other features that we'll be demonstrating will be a tad different in the web version. Our second section is our left-hand navigation rail, which includes all the helpful icons built into Teams. Some of the icons will also open up a left panel organization tagged alongside it. And finally, our main content area, which takes up the largest portion of our Teams interface. Now, Teams offer many ways to connect and collaborate. The two main differences are calls and meetings, the very title of our session today. So there are various options in Teams, and think of calling as your quick in-the-moment conversation when chat just might not be getting the job done. So perhaps I am in a chat conversation with my group members, and I want to jump into an impromptu call with them or just go into an audio call. Then in the top right corner of every group or one-on-one chat conversation, you'll see a video camera or an audio call icon, and these will signify that you can jump into a call. Now, my video camera icon is grayed out since I am using a virtual machine and I don't have a camera attached, but you should see that ungrayed within your environment. Now, if I were to engage, it will call all of the members in my group chat. So if you are in a group chat and you do utilize that function, note that it will call all 4 members at the same time. Now, similarly, if I pivot over to my Teams and Channel space, I can find in the top right corner a little video camera icon, which is my Meet Now feature. If I were to select, and if I were to meet now in my general channel within my Mark A project, I'm going to find that I'm greeted by a pre-meeting screen that alerts me to change the meeting title. So if I wanted to go ahead and engage in maybe a mock training with my channel members, I can do so. And just like that, it will bring me into a meeting by myself. And my Teams recognizes that I am in a meeting all alone. So it'll alert me to copy a meeting link, perhaps to an external member or someone that's not part of this team. And also I can add participants within this space. But I wanted to note that when you do have that ad hoc meeting within your channel, you'll find a visual cue for all of your channel members, signified by this video camera icon next to the channel. And here, any of the channel members within my general channel can go in and partake in this meeting alongside with me. Hit exit out of there for now. And perhaps you want to start an impromptu meeting directly from your calendar. So if we pivot over to a calendar, similarly located, we have that Meet Now option. And you can go ahead and have instances where sometimes you want to have a quick meeting with a group and maybe you don't have a chance to schedule the meeting first and hoping everyone can join. So this is where the Meet Now option in your Teams calendar comes in handy, as you can create an ad hoc meeting without having to set things up first. So this can be by default meeting with myself, and I can start this meeting, but I can also get a link to share. So we'll get that link and we'll start this meeting. And again, I'm prompted to change that meeting title if I'd like to, but we'll join now. And what I can do is I can hover over to my chat. And perhaps I want to share out this meeting link to my team members, Alex, Alan, and Deborah. Then I can say, team, please join me. Now we have that copied and pasted, and without me having to have scheduled or created that meeting, we have that link conveniently for us. And we can hover over and engage in that meeting space. But for now, I will choose to go ahead and just end the meeting. And we've covered various Meet Now options, jumping into a quick ad hoc meeting, whether it's with colleague or channel members. But perhaps you want to schedule meetings. So lucky for you, there are multiple meeting types, 4 exactly, depending on the purpose of your meeting. So we'll pivot back to our calendar area. And we have 4 types, with the first being a standard meeting. Now, a standard meeting will be a basic standalone, or you can have it be a recurring meeting. Second, you can have a channel meeting. Now, this is for teams needing meetings as part of the workspace and for team transparency. We also have webinars. And if I were to schedule a webinar, which we won't get into much today, but you do have that option if you select the drop-down arrow and choose to select webinar. This will be for an organized event with the main speaker with much audience interaction. And finally, our 4th type of meeting, we have our live events, just like the environment we are all in today, for larger events like perhaps an all-hands meeting or for public trainings. So today we're going to focus on scheduling, joining, and also conducting a basic meeting. So let's dive into that meeting creation. We have the option to schedule a meeting here, but we also have 2 other ways to schedule a meeting. You can just double click in the space of your choosing as well, or you can select the plus with the new meeting icon as well. So I'm just going to choose that icon, and here we can go and add in our details. We can find that our meeting title is going to be our, let's call it our Tuesday sync. And my required attendees are going to be my colleague, Alan. Simply by typing in the first few letters of their name, you'll see that Alan has populated as he's recognized by our organization directory. And again, I can do that with another colleague. And perhaps I wanted to add an external member, then I can do so by typing in the full email address. I'm just going to type in my email address here. Now you'll also find the optional feature here, and this is you can think of for visibility purposes, meaning these individuals may not be able to make it to the meeting or maybe stop in for a little bit, but it's great for them to be in the know. So a use case scenario for me are my managers. They are usually my optional attendees. So maybe I want to add in my director here. Now I have my date and time. We can have it set for today at 11:30, but maybe I wanted to manually change this and have it start at an odd time like 11:33 or 34. I can have it set that way as well. All right. So underneath, we'll find the recurring option, meaning you can change the standalone meeting and transform it into a recurring option. Seeing that it's a Tuesday sync, perhaps I want this to be a weekly meeting, so I can have that weekly option every Tuesday. And if you don't give it an end date, it will occur indefinitely. So let's go ahead and have it occur until the first Tuesday in December. Underneath, you'll find the option to add a channel, and this is where you can create a channel meeting. So if I were to do that, I would just simply select the team and choose the channel. If I did not want to, I can go ahead and just edit accordingly because it's just doesn't suit my needs today with my demonstration, but that's there for you if you like. You can also add a location. If that applies, perhaps it's inside a specific building and inside Conference Room Crystal. We can also type out our details for this meeting. This is particularly useful just to give your attendees a heads up on the purposes of this sync. So we can say every Tuesday, updates, latest. Now, before we do send this invite, we'll find that next door we have our handy dandy scheduling assistant. And this will allow us to maneuver our tool to find that everybody is available. So at this point, we find a row dedicated to each individual, and it's showing that every individual is available. But if I were to, let's say, initially have it set for 10:45 to 11:15, you'll see that I'm actually unavailable. So let's pivot back here and change that using our handy tool. Now underneath you have additional options as well. Perhaps I want to engage in my time zone. I can choose, as well as response options. If you would not like that request response options, as it can get a bit cumbersome, you can turn that off. But we'll send this for now. Before we do that though, I did want to pivot back to details and let you know that within this details area, we do not yet have the Teams join link, nor do we have the meeting options. And we'll find that after we have sent it out. So now when I go back to my Tuesday sync, we'll find the option to edit this either occurrence or the series, as Teams recognizes that it's a recurring meeting. That's also why we have these recurring arrows in the bottom right corner, by the way. Just gives you great insight on what type of meeting this is. So we'll edit the entire series, and now we'll find that within our details area, we now have access to that Teams meeting link, as well as meeting controls. We'll look a little bit more in depth in these areas soon, but I did want to mention that. In addition, after having sent out the invite, we'll see some more tabs that have populated for us to engage in. So we'll engage in that very soon, but I did want to showcase an additional way that you can create a meeting, which is inside your very own chat. So I'm inside this group chat here with my 3 other colleagues. So if we navigate below our compose message area, we're greeted by a host of messaging extensions, allowing us to extend our instant messaging type of experience. So we'll find this little calendar with a plus sign icon, which is your scheduling a meeting shortcut. And this will bring you to that familiar new meeting details area, where you'll see that now within our required attendees line, we have all those individuals that were in our group chat populate for us automatically. Of course, if I wanted to add in an individual, maybe Nestor here, I can do so. But this feature is incredibly valuable when you do want a shortcut to creating a meeting, perhaps with many, many individuals. It just prevents you from having to type in each individual at a time. So we'll discard for now. So we saw that second way of scheduling a meeting within that chat area. We say that scheduling a meeting shortcut. And a third way is right inside your Outlook interface. So let's pivot to Outlook. And along the bottom left, I have 4 different Outlook modules. I am inside the calendar currently. And within my ribbon, specifically within my home tab, I can find my new Teams meeting add-in. And this is where I can create a Teams meeting, a third right, but right inside Outlook. So we'll go ahead and maximize this. Just like we did earlier, let's go ahead and schedule this meeting and have it say Teams meeting. And just for demonstration purposes, I'll say it's from Outlook. And just like we did earlier, I'm going to add in my colleagues here, but just typing in, oh, we have Alan twice. He is quite important, as you can see. Let's go ahead and add Alex and Deborah as well. We have it optional for us and our start and end time, as well as having this all day if we'd like to, and having this time zone checked off. Just valuable if you are speaking with clients, perhaps in different time zones or maybe in different regions. We can also make this a recurring meeting. You'll see that automatically our location is defaulted to being in a Microsoft Teams meeting. Now, what is the difference between scheduling a meeting in your Outlook, scheduling a Teams meeting specifically in Outlook versus within your Teams interface? So 2 things. First, remember that join meeting link was not available for us until after we sent out the invite. But you'll see in Outlook, I have not sent out this invite yet, but I have this Teams meeting link at my disposal. And that's super helpful if you did want to copy out this meeting link and perhaps share it out in maybe a Teams chat. We also have second difference, which is within our meeting tab. We have this meeting options. And this meeting options, remember, was available to us after we had sent out the invite on our Teams. But in Outlook, you have that meeting options. You have exposure to that even before you send out the invite. So let's dig a little bit deeper here as we look at what our meeting options entail. We can see who can bypass the lobby. Now, by default, we have our organization and guests, but perhaps you want to restrict this area to people that you specifically invite or only just yourself and your co-organizers. You also have other options. I'll shout out a couple that I do find extremely useful, such as designated co-organizers. My co-organizers will be extremely helpful with being able to have access to these meeting options in my absence. So maybe if I weren't able to tend to these meeting options, then I can rely on my co-organizers to be able to adjust perhaps the lobby. Now we also have our presenters. So right here, by default, it's everyone, but maybe I want to specify specific presenters. And here I'm going to have Deborah be a presenter. And we have other options. Let's explore one more, like allowing a meeting chat. By default, it's enabled, but perhaps you want it only allowed when you're in the meeting. So that can be toggled to in meeting only. So my meeting options look great. And we can save that and exit out for now. And again, above, we do have similar options to what we saw in Teams, which is requesting responses to be turned off if you'd like. We also have other options here, but I'm ready to send this out. And we have that Teams meeting via Outlook populate and also a reminder here in Outlook. Now, I did want to also mention the most important feature, which is that Outlook is synchronized with your Teams calendar. So we'll find that same meeting that we saw populate also within our Teams calendar. It may just take a couple of minutes for Teams calendar to synchronize. So as best practice, I like to navigate to the top left and make sure we're up to date. And it will hopefully populate for us here. There we go. All right. So we saw how to access creating a meeting. So now let's head on over to accessing the first stage of our meeting lifecycle, the pre-meeting stage. Now I'm going to pivot back to my Tuesday sync here. And now we can, as we saw earlier, edit either the single occurrence or the series. So we have within our tab line, multiple tabs that have generated after we have sent out the invite. So let's take advantage of a few as we engage in a chat. Now, why might this be useful? Perhaps you want to let your attendees know that you're running a little bit late. So I can say team. And now I want to take advantage of my extension tools, such as my paperclip icon to attach a file from either my computer or my OneDrive, which I will showcase at this moment. And I want to share out this annual review PowerPoint here and share it out. And I can send this away. And here I was able to add an attachment and also just give my attendees a heads up. Pivoting, we see our banner notification. Thank you, Alex. But pivoting to our files tab, here we can locate all the files that have an exchange between my attendees and myself. And of course, this aggregated list is extremely useful when this is a recurring meeting across, I believe, a couple of months that I set it to. So I can just always rely on this files tab instead of having to scroll through this entire chat history. We'll go to our meeting notes. And here I like to use this space to create meeting minutes. So maybe these are going to be meeting minutes for today. And I can also select to type away, but why make my life harder when I can rely on my wonderful colleagues to please be a note taker. And I also have the ellipsis, again, my hidden treasure to give me more options. But I can also select this plus sign to add a new section. Now, because this is a recurring meeting, for the next meeting, Teams will generate an entirely new section automatically. So it's great to always be able to refer back to the previous meeting notes. Again, the next meeting, in our case, next Tuesday, we'll have a brand new section created for that specific meeting. But let's explore our whiteboard here. And here we're able to take advantage of our digital canvas, whether it be creating a brand new whiteboard or maybe exploring some whiteboards that we had in the past. So let's explore this mindfulness activity that I initiated in the past. And along the left, we have quite a few tools that we could take advantage of. Perhaps I want to jot down a quick note that's also resizable. I can also click and drag. We can also explore text options as well, and shapes, and much more. We've seen reactions here, but we can't forget about our templates to just be suitable for that specific meeting. Perhaps we're scheduling a specific project meeting. Now, we'll also find that we have in the bottom right corner our zoom in, zoom out options. As a question that we've received in the past is, can you have multiple whiteboards here? Now, with this one whiteboard, you can always zoom in and out to play around with your real estate. So there is that option there. You can also utilize these pencils at the top, but let's head on over to our attendance tab that will be more relevant in the post-meeting stage, where we'll have an attendance report. So for now, you'll see that it is blank, but finally we have our breakout rooms tab. And this is visible to me for two reasons. First, I am the organizer of this meeting. And second, I am using the desktop version of Teams. So one more time, we have our breakout rooms tabs visible because Adele is the organizer of our Tuesday Sync recurring meeting. And second, I am using the desktop version of Teams. At the top, we have our participants, and we can find the option to create our rooms. 250 being the max, but I did want to showcase this briefly while we're in the meeting, just so that we see that we don't have to pre-configure our breakout rooms only before we've started the meeting. This can be delved in while we're in the meeting as well. So we also have the plus sign, which will always allow us to add additional tabs. So maybe I want to add another question and answer type of platform, so I can engage in this Q&A here. So it will be a bit more freeform and allowing my attendees to be a bit more organized in the way we space out our questions. But here, this is just a little demonstration of how you can add an app such as Q&A into your recurring meeting. So here you can customize accordingly, but we'll save. This looks great for us. And you'll now find that we have a tab dedicated to that brand new application that will be available to us once we join. We can also alter it in this way as well. We can ask a question. But I am ready to join, so we can do so by selecting the top right join option, or of course I can pivot back to my calendar and join this way as well. So multiple ways to achieve that same task depending on what works for you. So let's move on to our in-meeting experience. The first step to our in-meeting stage is going to be our backstage dressing room. So here we are greeted with, on our left, our video options. So right now you'll find that, again, my camera is not connected to my virtual machine, but you'll have the option to select that video to be toggled on or off. And next door, if you do have it enabled for your organization, you'll have virtual background options as well. We also can find our cogwheel, which will open up our device settings. Specifically, if you do have maybe Bluetooth devices or a headset that you would like to connect, you can choose to do so. Underneath my favorite device setting, which is my noise suppression, I get to control how little or how much of my background noise I would like Teams to suppress. Now, perhaps there's a lot of construction going on in my environment, so I can select high, or maybe I want to come off mute and I want others to hear audio, then I can select low if I'm sharing out music maybe, or I can have Teams do the hard work for me and have it set to auto. Now, along the right, we can find that we have the options to choose our audio. We'll find our computer audio here, but perhaps you want to engage in having Teams call your phone and use your phone as your audio and your computer as your content to display your video. Or maybe your room audio, which is when you have a device that all the members are connected to via Bluetooth, perhaps a smartboard or a Surface Hub. And lastly, not using audio at all, which allows your team, if you are all inside the same meeting space or perhaps a conference room, it eliminates that feedback. But I'm going to select my computer audio here and select join now. But I will actually turn that off to eliminate feedback today. And let's explore our in-meeting experience here. Now, as that populates, no worries, it's just connecting. My virtual machine likes to be a bit sleepy sometimes, so perhaps It's just having the case of Tuesdays. So we'll go ahead and definitely we can talk over this, but we'll see right here, Teams has read my mind. At the topmost portion, we are finding our meeting controls. Now this is at the top as I'm in the desktop version of Teams. If you're using the web version, the taskbar will be located to the bottommost portion. We find our two profile icons because they beat us to the punch. So Alex and Alan are here before me. Now, exploring our icons in our meeting controls, we have our people icon, and this will open up our participants to the right. And speaking of to the right, we can find our three-dot ellipsis. Remember, giving us more options such as managing our permissions. And if this looks familiar, it's because you saw this before joining this meeting. And this will allow you to adjust your options for this meeting while you are in the meeting itself. So we have another way to explore these meeting options. It just wants to take a little bit of time to load today. So no worries, we can exit out for now and see a second way very soon. We'll also see that within the ellipsis, we can download the attendance list as well, and also lock the meeting, preventing other users to join. So within this area, I can invite someone to join. So if I wanted to invite Christy, I can, of course, just type in the first few letters of her name and request for her to join. I can also find underneath who's in this meeting, people who I have invited, so I can request for them to join here. Now, next to, before we go to the ellipsis, we can also find the option to share this invite if we did want to share out the meeting link. But next to each attendee, we can find an ellipsis, which will give us more options pertaining to that individual. So perhaps I wanted to pin Alex's video because he's the interpreter for this meeting. I can do so, or we can spotlight his video for everyone, or demote him to maybe making him an attendee, or removing him from this meeting altogether. Now we'll find the chat area, which will open up our chat area here to the rightmost portion, and it looks like our attendees have responded. Remember, this is something I explored before the meeting even started. So it's that same persistent conversation that we can engage in. So it doesn't look like I can engage, but no worries. I think my Teams is just being a bit sleepy. There we go. So we can just acknowledge them just so that we don't leave Alex and Alan hanging here. And we can find our reactions. We can utilize these reactions to show engagement, maybe give others encouragement and show that you are engaged. But we see Alex has something to say, so he utilized that raise hand feature. So this is great for just eliminating people talking on top of one another and just create some order within your meeting. So I can find that hand raised within my people icon. So we can go ahead and lower Alex's hand, or we can also lower our own hand by selecting that hand once again. Next door, we can find our breakout rooms icon, which will open up that pane, allowing us to assign our breakout rooms. Remember, not just before the meeting begins, but while you're conducting the meeting. So maybe I forgot to do this beforehand, so I can have Teams do this for me, or I can choose to do so manually. So I'm going to have Teams do that for me conveniently here. And we'll find that Teams will automatically have Alan and Alex inside their own breakout rooms here. Now, we won't delve into this much further as there's an entire session dedicated to breakout rooms, but that was just a little bit of a taste to see what breakout rooms can bring to just decrease that meeting fatigue, bringing our attendees to their own breakout rooms or perhaps in a smaller group workspace. We also have our Q&A pane. It's really trying to make its presence known as there's two up there for us. No worries, we are sure that we have that for us, opening up, allowing that different type of Q&A area, asking those questions. And we can also find that we have the gear icon if we did want to make adjustments. Now you'll find that plus icon to add additional applications if you wanted to. So if I wanted to poll my attendees, I can engage in this area, and now it'll help me to either use templates that are pre-populated or to create a brand new poll on my end. So this polls area will just give me some suggestions, and it will set up my polls tab because, as you know, it will be its own tab here. And now along the right, it will give me visibility to some templates that I could take advantage of, or I can go ahead and create a brand new poll. But again, making my life easier, maybe I just want to have some insight on how people are feeling here. So I can choose, and now we see that's being initiated. And we'll find that as soon as I do launch it, it will populate for all of our attendees. So we're going to go ahead, and also if we did want to change this and edit it, we can do so. All right, now we can go ahead and launch it, but if you aren't ready, you can always save it as a draft as well and launch it later on when applicable. Now we'll find that it populates for us, and we'll find that in real time, we can see those results. All right, so Teams is going to take a little bit of time. No worries, we'll go ahead and let it work its magic. Here we go. And maybe I'm feeling fabulous today, submitting my vote, and we'll see those results populate for us in real time. Just okay. Hoping that our attendees do feel better and it becomes good or fabulous soon. But let's pivot over to our ellipsis, giving us a host of options here within our Teams experience. So we can, of course, explore device settings again, should you feel that people are having trouble hearing you. We also can examine our call health. And also, this is our second way of exploring those meeting options, but this time it will open up for you right inside your Teams meeting. So perhaps I am just not able to control the meeting lobby, and there are so many people waiting, asking me to admit them, so I can just have everyone bypass and essentially just taking away that lobby. So I can adjust it during that meeting. That would be a use case scenario there. So we also have our meeting notes. This will bring us to those notes that we started before the meeting. We'll also have our gallery mode. We'll find that we can also engage in this large gallery. That is grayed out for me since I don't have 9 or more attendees. But we also have our together mode, and this is going to bring our attendees into a virtual space. So just to see this in action, you'll find that with together mode, you can also choose a virtual background for all of your attendees to float inside, which is pretty awesome to, again, decrease that meeting fatigue. So maybe I want all of us inside this area. And you can also choose if you want this together mode to be for everyone. You can also assign seats, but let's just see what this might look like. So as default, we have the auditorium. We can change the scene. I also do have a PowerPoint slide to just showcase what large gallery view looks like. And this is going to bring your attendees into a 7x7 grid. And we have our together mode to the left. Within our ellipsis, we can also go ahead and take advantage of other items. Maybe I want to record this meeting just so that it's available for us to reference later. And it's okay, it's just being a little bit sleepy there. So we can start our recording, and we'll have a little banner notification at the top letting our users know that it's currently being recorded. And to stop the recording, you can do so within that same area. All right, so let's pivot over to our share options as we find our share tray icon. And this will allow us to share out either our audio or perhaps our screen. And if you want to share out video or perhaps music like I did at the beginning of our presentation today, I hope that you're able to hear it. If not, I forgot to include computer sound. So you would need to select that to be toggled on if you would like to share out video or perhaps audio to your attendees. You can also share out your entire desktop, or you can share out a specific window. Now, if you want to select this window option, it will have you choose a window. Let's go back and see that we have access to our whiteboard as well. Remember that digital canvas that we explored earlier. And also PowerPoint Live, my favorite feature of our share tray options. So maybe I want to share out this product launch PowerPoint. Then I'll select it, and we can see that we have PowerPoint Live generate for us. And I'm going to find that it's going to take a little bit of time, but no worries, as we will have our content that's being shared outlined in red. And that's going to be because Our attendees are only able to see what's outlined in red, and perhaps I had a slide that had speaker notes, then Alex Allen will not be able to see any notes that are attached to these slides. So we'll find that we can sift through this in sequence using the arrows, or maybe jump to a specific slide if we wanted to. Perhaps it's a longer slide here. But if I had any speaker notes attached, I would be the only one that have these speaker notes visible, whereas Alex and Alan can only see what's outlined in red. Now we also have some collaboration tools. Perhaps I want to focus on a certain word or phrase for 2 to 3 seconds. We can use a laser, or we can also annotate directly on the slide. Also highlighting and selecting the ellipsis will give you additional options pertaining to your PowerPoint as well. Now let's go ahead and explore our final share option, which is sharing out files as well, just like we saw earlier, whether it's from your OneDrive or your computer. So we're going to go ahead and end the meeting for everyone. As I'm the organizer, I can do so. If I were to leave, it would just leave. I would be the only one that would leave this meeting here. But let's end the meeting for everybody. And it's going to bring me back to our calendar. If I wanted to reference those same resources that I took advantage of both before and during the meeting, I'm going to go back to my chat area, and we're going to find that our Tuesday sync is going to be the most recent option within my recent list. And you'll know it's a meeting conversation because you have that calendar icon right next to it. And here within my tab line, I can find my chat. And here I can also always scroll through as well as locate those apps that we engaged in, such as polls. We see Alex is eager to add in some more information that maybe Alan needed after he had to leave early. We also have our files that we can reference. Remember, I shared out my PowerPoint there. We can also now explore attendance as it applies to our situation. We can find a breakdown of the individuals as well as exactly when they joined and when they left, as well as their roles. In addition, we can find our meeting notes. Perhaps I wanted to have some items for next week's meeting so that I can add on to today's or maybe add on to next week's. Looks like someone else is editing the session, so it looks like one person can edit at a time there. But let's pivot over to our whiteboard. Again, you can reference this or have this area prepared. Perhaps you want to engage in a template this time for next Tuesday's meeting. And also we have our breakout rooms that perhaps you want to adjust. And you also have that other Q&A area as well as your polls. So if I wanted to launch a poll for next time, I can always create one from scratch or maybe list viewed from these lists of suggestions. So when it comes to our meeting life cycle, we were really able to take advantage of what's available before the pre-meeting stage, during the in-meeting stage, and after the post-meeting stage. So let's look at one more item, which is going to be our reporting, which that's very valuable for us. There we go. You'll see that that wasn't populated instantly, as it does take Teams a couple of minutes, if not more. But we find that we can find this within our Files tab, but within the ellipsis, you can also open it up in the browser or download this recording, or perhaps copy out the link to someone else that wasn't part of the meeting or they are asking for it. You'll also find the recording available within the chat area as well for you and your attendees. All right. So we are going to now pivot over to our callings portion of our demonstration today. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick brain break here. That was a lot of content, and I did want to see and check in with our moderators to see if there are any questions that we can address or perhaps items that we can address live or redemonstrate.
Hey, Sarah, and hi, everybody joining us today in this session. We didn't get any questions. It's looking a little lonely here in our Q&A, but we are encouraging everybody in the session to send in your questions in the Q&A panel. If you want Sarah to go back to maybe a section that you missed, she can definitely redemonstrate that. But for now, Sarah, we don't have any questions yet.
Thank you so much, Amy and Jake, for moderating that chat area. And if you do have any questions, again, like Amy addressed, please feel free to do so, as we're more than happy to assist you today. So we'll begin our calling portion by thinking, how is our status presence related to calling? So when we select, we'll find that underneath our email and our name, we can find our status presence. Now, when you are available, that means you're active in Teams, meaning you'll receive notifications as they appear, and it also indicates to your callers and users that you don't have anything on your calendar. Now, if you're in busy mode, it's when you want to focus on something, but still have those notifications pop up. If you're in a meeting or you're in a call, Teams will change your status to that red solid dot, and it'll say in a meeting, or it will say in a call. So if Alan were to call me right now and I picked up, it would show in a call here. It looks like I'm in a meeting because we have a calendar invite there for us, but continuing to explore, we also have our do not disturb mode. And this will indicate that you want to focus and have no notifications pop up, except for those that remain on your do not disturb contacts list. We'll visit how to do this as a reminder very soon, how to set up those priority contacts. But in do not disturb mode, when callers do call you, it will send that call directly to voicemail, unless of course they are your priority contacts. Be right back appear away is indicating to callers that you won't respond right away, and appearing offline is just that you're not signed into Teams altogether. So next up is visiting our call setting options. So let's explore our ellipsis here, and now we'll go over to settings. And as you know, we have a host of tabs populate for us, the leftmost portion, and we'll look within our privacy tab to find that do not disturb priority contact setting. So if you did want to select certain individuals to bypass your do not disturb mode, you can do so by simply typing in the first few letters of their name here. Maybe I want to add grade. And if you want to remove, of course, you can just select the X. We also have that these individuals, you will still receive notifications if they try to chat with you and at mention. Now we also have this block contacts area. If you would like to block contacts with no caller ID, you can do so. We also can shimmy on over to notifications. And specific to calls, if you wanted a sound to play for any incoming calls, you can have that turned on, as well as notifications. And specific to meetings and calls, if you want to edit your notifications, you'll see you can mute them while you're in a call in a meeting. And you can also, of course, unmute if you want it toggled off. You can also have your meeting started, meaning anyone from that meeting can begin or initiate that meeting. So you can have that show up within your banner. Banner meaning the bottom right corner notification. You can also have that selected off, and also your meeting chat notifications will appear muted until you join or send a message, or you maybe want it unmuted. So you can really customize your calls settings here. But speaking of calls, let's pivot over to calls. And we can find that we have a choice on how to handle incoming calls. Right now they're calling me, and if I do not answer, it's going to be directed to my voicemail, excuse me, or do nothing. You also have this ring go for 20 seconds by default, but maybe you want it to call you for longer. We can also have all incoming calls forwarded, so you can have that be adjusted. Perhaps you are out of office or you're tending to something that you cannot, where you can't call or pick up a call, excuse me. You also can configure voicemail as well. And you can also choose a specific ringtone for those calls. So by default, it'll be that familiar default Teams tone, but perhaps you want to make it a little bit more interesting. You can also preview the ringtone. And lastly, we have our accessibility feature of turning on our text telephone, allowing you to communicate via text over a phone line. Before we do exit out of our settings, we can't forget about our devices that we explored briefly in our backstage dressing room of our Teams meeting. But here you can definitely have it set so you don't have to do this each time as you're greeted by the cogwheel in your dressing room. And you can remember, select those applicable external devices. But you also can make a test call, which will bring you to a Teams meeting by yourself, just to ensure everything is good to go. And also have those other features like high fidelity music mode when you have video or audio, or maybe a secondary ringer if you want to select devices that you want Teams to ring through. This is handy, particularly when you have multiple audio devices connected to your computer. And again, my virtual camera is off, but you'll be able to see your camera work for you here. So our settings look perfect. So let's go ahead and explore our calls interface. As we pivot over to our calls icon, we're greeted by our calling interface here, broken up into two tabs. Our phone tab, which we'll explore first, and then we also have our contacts, which we'll pivot over last. So in the top left corner, we'll locate an area where we can type in an individual's name. So if I wanted to get in contact with Christy, it's as easy as typing in the first few letters of her name, like we've done multiple times today. And you can also make this a group call if I wanted to call, maybe add Deborah to this line. Or Alan, that's fine too. And Deborah, and we can call them. You can also see that we have some quick tools here underneath. We can jump into a video or an audio call with these individuals. Underneath, you'll find those same call options that we saw within our ellipsis, which is a quick shortcut. So if you wanted to configure your forwarding options, you can do so within this dropdown. This more settings will bring you to the same settings window we saw earlier. We can customize our device settings setup as well. So that's just a second way to really control your device and forwarding options. In the center, we'll find our call history. Similar to how we would on our cell devices, we can go ahead and really quickly just zoom out. There we go. We can see all of our calls, and we can find our missed calls categorized by our incoming calls, but also our voicemail. Now, why not use this filter signified by these little 3 lines where you can filter by a specific name or number. We can filter within this ellipsis to look at specific type of calls, such as missed calls, and filter by specific name or number that way. Of course, you have another way to call these individuals by locating that call icon right next to their names. And finally, in the rightmost portion, we can locate our contact groups. So we have these 2 fellows next to my speed dial here. You can see that I am in contact with them quite frequently, but the 3-dot ellipsis will allow me to add individuals to my speed dial. So maybe I want to add Christy to my speed dial as well. And underneath, you'll also find that I have additional contact groups as well. And again, if you want to add contacts, you can do so. And you can expand this view by simply selecting that sideways triangle. Now you may be wondering how I created these contact groups. Well, you'll navigate to your chat area, and within that chat text, there's a drop-down, and you'll pivot over to contacts. And now you'll find that those same contact groups, but at the bottom left corner of your left-hand panel, this is where you can create a brand new contact group. So perhaps this is going to be my support. I'm going to need a tech support group here, so we can select create. And now we have that new group created. And similarly, like we did earlier, we can add a contact this way, also renaming it or deleting it. But let's shimmy back to our calls group. And on the rightmost portion, we should see that new contact group populate for us. Now, if I do hover over my colleague's contact card, we'll find another way to go ahead and contact them if we wanted to call, and also send them a quick message as well as some important information. Now let's explore our contacts tab as we find that we have various contacts I've added to my contact group here. Now, if I wanted to do so, if I wanted to add a contact, it's as simple as selecting the top right corner, and I can choose to type in maybe Grady. And as it's recognized, we see that all we have to do is add, and Teams has recognized not only his name and his job title, but also his phone number. So we see those items also available for us, such as picking up a call. And you'll also see I have some external contacts available. And these individuals I was also able to add with Outlook, because remember, Teams and Outlook are synchronized. So we can take Jake's example here. As he's added, he's my CEO. We can find that within our Outlook area, when I pivot to my contacts module, I have added him previously, and it's synchronized within my Teams contacts list. Well, you'll see some limited functionality with Jake here, as I'm able to email him, but I wasn't able to engage in these other options that I have with my internal users. All right, so we were able to go over our calling interface here, broken up into our phone and context tab, as well as configuring our call settings. So let's dedicate these next 5 minutes that's remaining to any questions that you may have, or perhaps you would like some time to input your questions. Please do so. And as the rest of the time is dedicated to you to see if there are any things that we can redemonstrate or perhaps go over again. So while we wait, let's go ahead. And of course, Yami, feel free to interrupt. You won't be interrupting, but feel free to stop me. But we'll go ahead and recap our training today. So hopefully you are able to experience the full meeting lifecycle, what you can take advantage of before the meeting even begins, also during the meeting and after the meeting concludes, as well as learning how easy it is to schedule meetings in various ways and joining them as well, and also collaborating, and also how to set up your call settings and making your calls. So I'm going to go ahead and just pivot back to our moderators to see if there are any questions that can be addressed before we do conclude today.
Yes, Sarah, thank you. There's actually one here that I think would benefit from a demonstration. Somebody was asking if you can attach Excel files. You definitely can. You can attach those files in your private chats and your meeting conversations. But Sarah, can you demonstrate how you can set those link permissions for any document that you share?
For sure.
They actually want to see how we can kind of lock the document so no one can edit whatever we're sharing.
Okay, thank you for that question, and thank you for restating it, Yemi. So we can find our paperclip icon, and maybe I want to explore an Excel sheet within my OneDrive. So perhaps I'm going to explore my Contoso purchasing data for Q1. And now underneath your file name, whether it be a document or a PowerPoint, we'll have permission settings, and we'll find that it's in fine print, so it's a little easy to miss, but there'll be a little drop-down caret, and this will allow you to choose who this link works for. Currently, it's people that's in this chat, but maybe you want to go ahead and specify certain users. But you did ask how we can look at some other settings, such as perhaps not allowing to edit. So this is where you'll find your other settings dropdown. And by default, everyone can edit that you do allow permissions for. But if you're going to have them perhaps not edit and just view the document, you can have that option selected on. Furthermore, you can even have restrict download. So you can have that option toggle on as well. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, please let us know. But thank you for that inquiry.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I think that did answer the question, but if not, please let us know in the Q&A panel. And Jake has also posted the link to our survey. You can also talk a little bit more about that.
Perfect. So today we do value your feedback. So we would love to hear from you. If you do have about a minute or two to spare, please let us know how we did, not specifically your thoughts on the Teams application, but how I did as your presenter, as well as Yami and Jake as your moderators, and providing that support for you today. So we appreciate the time that you can take. This survey is optional, but again, we would love to hear from you. And this will also allow us to make those adjustments and only improve your future sessions. So with that, if we don't have any more questions, this is just a reminder that today's training will be available on demand for 3 months. My apologies with 6 months, but it is for the next 90 days by using that same meeting link that you used to join today. So thank you, everyone. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay safe, and take care.
Okay, we ended.
Yes.
Sarah, you did it.
Thank you. I did do it.
A minute before 12.
I know. I have to really work on that.